serious look than ever before.
I'm on a creaking Long Island Railroad train heading to Penn Station.
You know what we're looking at right over here out our window to the right.
It is Sunnyside Yards, where New Jersey trains.
That's Liam Blank. He points out dozens of NJ Transit trains. He's the chair of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee at the City Club of New York. These trains we're looking at are sitting in Queens, but they belong to NJ Transit. The trains drop off commuters at Penn during the morning commute and head here,
where they sit empty throughout the day.
In the afternoon, they'll head back to Penn to pick up commuters for the evening rush. Blank thinks these idle trains are a total waste, and he has a better idea that he's been studying for over a decade. It's called through running. It would unify the MTA and NJ Transit. Imagine taking an NJ Transit train from Newark to New Haven, or Jersey City to Montauk, and then back to Jersey.
When you have a through running system, you don't need to be storing all of the trains close to the core and using all of that valuable land.
During rush hour, dozens of NJ Transit and LIRR trains just roll into Penn Station and then turn around. Blank argues they should run through. That would allow for more train service in and out of Midtown.
Transitioning to like a more regional rail operation would provide more regular service in both directions across the region. More like a subway type service, not as frequent, but more dependable.
This has been a dream of transit nerds for decades. Governor Nelson Rockefeller pushed for it in the 1960s. Officials on both sides of the Hudson River have repeatedly rejected it. But there are signs that this idea's time may have come, thanks to an unlikely source, the Trump administration, as part of its push to rebuild Penn Station.
If you can get an operating model where trains literally spend less time in the platform because they are running through the station, you're giving people more travel objectives and creating economic benefit to the east and west of the city.
That's Andy Byford speaking to reporters last fall. He's the former head of New York City Transit, who's credited with creating a plan that brought the subway back from the brink of disaster. Now he's at Amtrak and in charge of remaking Penn Station. And as part of his planning, he commissioned a study on through running.
If the trains spend less time in the platform, then you can run more trains through. So there's lots of reasons why I think through running should be explored. And
there's another reason the idea may finally be realized: the $16 billion Gateway Tunnel project. In a little over a decade, the project will add a new set of Hudson River train tunnels that can be used by NJ Transit and Amtrak. And with 2 train tunnels, it could double the number of trains that can head into Penn Station from the Garden State, from 24 to 48 trains an hour. But those new trains will need somewhere to go, and officials behind Gateway have for years pitched an aggressive solution. They want to expand Penn Station to the south by demolishing an entire city block. That's something Byford is against.
We shouldn't even countenance expansion of the station, which would require demolition of Block 780 for starters, until we've exploited every ounce of efficiency out of the existing station footprint.
Before Amtrak took over the redevelopment of the station, the MTA was running the project. In 2024, they released a report from the firm WSP that concluded through running was not possible at Penn. For one thing, the railroads would need to coordinate ticketing, schedules, and even platform designs. But also, the more than 1,000 pillars holding up Madison Square Garden would also need to be replaced or rebuilt. That's something the report called an unprecedented level of heavy construction, and it would disrupt service for years. But Byford says he's not so sure.
It is not the case that you have to remove all the pillars. There are things that can be done in terms of physical changes to the station that would still enable more through running.
Back on my LIRR train, Blank and I finally pull into Penn. Commuter Lisa Coria has been eavesdropping on our discussion and wants to let us know she's on board.
I liked everything you guys were saying.
She lives in Huntington and works in Midtown, but says if there was through running to New Jersey, it would open up options for her and her sales company.
Because you would be able to just have a faster commute. You wouldn't have to switch here.
and give you more options. Like if my company opened up another office, I'd be able to go.
Other commuters don't need an engineering report to know through running would improve their lives. Sarah and Anthony Romanoli from Bucks County, Pennsylvania are taking NJ Transit to Penn to switch to the LIRR to get to JFK. Sarah wishes it was more seamless. She compares it to the days before Easy Pass, when every state had its own toll booths.
Every time we used to have to stop on the Garden State and throw in 35 cents, I thought this is a big waste of everybody's time.
Advocates make the same argument. An Easy Pass-like experience should be the norm for trains, too. One ticket with different agencies coordinating, so passengers aren't inconvenienced. Backers of through running know it will be costly to reconfigure Penn, on the order of $10 billion or more. Still, it's cheaper than building a dozen more new tracks underground. But it'll ultimately be up to Byford and the feds. They're expected to release a report looking into through running next year. It could be a roadmap, and maybe the only way to force all the railroads using Penn Station to work together. Stephen Nesson, WNYC News.
WNYC receives support from William Patterson University, presenting host and executive producer of NPR's Fresh Air, Terry Gross, this Friday at the Shea Center for Performing Arts in Wayne, New Jersey. Tickets at WPPresents.org.
Marketplace Morning Report is coming up next, and then on Morning Edition, primary elections are underway in Louisiana. Why all the votes cast might not count. That's coming up on Morning Edition on WNYC. Low 50s and sunny and dry conditions today, increasing the risk for fires in New York City, Long Island, and the Hudson Valley. Sunny and 73, winds topping 20 miles an hour.
When your eyes are bigger than your wallet, the business edition.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Barron's Investor Circle, offering stock picks, market insights, and access to the Barron's editors behind a century of reporting at barrons.com/investor circle. And by Schwab. At Schwab, investors get choices ranging from self-directed investing to full-service wealth management all in one place. Learn more at schwab.com.
From Marketplace, I'm Sabri Ben-Achour in New York. GameStop, the gaming company, is trying to buy eBay, the not gaming company, and e-commerce site. GameStop is the smaller of the two, but it says it is down to spend about $56 billion on the acquisition. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more.
GameStop's chairman and CEO Ryan Cohen sent a letter yesterday to eBay's board of directors offering the cash and stock buyout. He plans to take over as CEO of the combined company. Cohen says GameStop has already accumulated about a 5% stake in eBay, but the video game retailer faces challenges because it is the smaller of the two companies with a market value that's about a fourth of eBay's. Cohen says his company would finance the purchase with $9 billion in cash and up to $20 billion in debt from TD Securities. It did not account for the rest of the purchase cost. Cohen told the Wall Street Journal that the tie-up could create a competitor to Amazon. He also told the paper that he would launch a hostile bid if eBay's board rejected a merger. I'm Nova Safo for Marketplace.
Fewer and fewer working Americans are earning a living wage. A new report from Dayforce and the Living Wage Institute found that just over half of full-time workers earn enough to provide for themselves and their families. That's down 5 percentage points compared to 4 years ago. Marketplace's Kaylee Wells reports.
What counts as a living wage depends on how much stuff costs. And right now,
the costs of housing, food, childcare, and other essentials are elevated. Energy prices have recently spiked, of course.
Jason Rollin with Dayforce says, meanwhile, wages have been going up, just not as fast as costs.
Job growth has recently slowed, and millions of workers haven't seen a meaningful improvement in their financial situation.
The report shows familiar demographic gaps. Women are less likely to earn a living wage than men, hourly workers less likely than salaried workers, Black and Latino workers less likely than white and Asian workers. And all of those gaps got wider in 2025.
Certain workers are always more vulnerable when the economy drops in any kind of way.
Saba Waheed is director of the UCLA Labor Center.
When there's an unemployment bump, you often see Black workers to experience it harder first and so on.
Waheed says one way to alleviate wage gaps is to elevate the lowest wages. The federal minimum wage, she points out, hasn't increased since 2009. I'm Kaylee Wells for Marketplace.
All right, let's do the numbers. Dow, S&P, and NASDAQ futures are all down in the 1 to 0.4% range, with Dow futures down 219 points. The yield on the 10-year Treasury is on its way up. It's at 4.41%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by GEP. With GEP Key, Agentic AI, and GEP Smart Software, GEP is at the forefront in agentic procurement orchestration and autonomous supply chains. And by Million Bazillion, a Webby-winning podcast from Marketplace, teaches your little ones all about money. Listen to Million Bazillion wherever you get your podcasts.
Tesla, well, specifically Tesla's CEO Elon Musk, has long made big promises about robo-taxis. These are the fully self-driving taxis. At one point, Musk said half the population of the U.S. would have access to them by the end of the last year. In Tesla's earnings call last week, that ambition was whittled down a little bit to just a dozen or so states by the end of this year. And the reality right now is even more modest. You're much more likely to see a robotaxi from competitor Waymo. Joining us to talk about Tesla's elusive robotaxi rollout is Kirsten Korosek, transportation editor at TechCrunch. Good morning.
Morning.
How widespread are Tesla's driverless vehicles right now?
Not widespread at all. They are in Austin, and there are a little bit more than a dozen that are considered to be actively in service. And they did just roll out in Dallas and Houston. But those two, you really need to put a little asterisk next to, because as far as I can see on my end, it's incredibly limited, just a couple of vehicles in both of these cities.
What has made the general rollout of driverless taxis slower than some people might have expected or hoped?
There's a number of reasons why. There's the technical reasons, right? And then there's the regulatory hoops that all of these companies have had to jump through. And then there's the hard part of just operating these things.
What is the biggest technical hurdle still remaining, do you think?
When I've talked to engineers, they sort of sum it up as, we've solved 99.999% of quote unquote full self-driving. And it's that very last fraction in which sometimes the vehicle doesn't operate as it should. There's also, I think, just this interesting phenomenon about how, we accept as a society people dying in car crashes, around 45,000 or so a year. But I think that the level of acceptance of a single autonomous vehicle potentially, killing someone or being involved in a fatal car crash or even injuring someone is very, very low. And so the bar is high.
How big is the regulatory hurdle facing these companies?
It's dependent on the state. So if you're in the state of California and you want to operate a robotaxi service, you have to go through 2 agencies and have multiple different permits. You want to do that in Arizona? It's a very different process and much faster. If we get a federal framework, I think that could be very helpful and actually encourage the disbursement of this technology in a more clear way. But right now you see these pockets or heavy hubs of activity.
Do you see a future where autonomous vehicles are commonplace and everywhere?
I think that in certain cities, it will absolutely be everywhere. But are we going to see robotaxis in middle America or in smaller towns? I don't think so. Certainly not anytime soon.
Kirsten Korosek, transportation editor at TechCrunch. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And just last week, Tesla added 5 more so-called unsupervised robotaxis to its fleet in Texas. In New York, I'm Sabri Ben-Achour with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
WNYC receives support from